Alrighty, so episode 3 here of again just setting up some shit and going for a rant. Leaving work now, so got this little doohickey set up here, so I can just get all this done without having to do all this shit, setting up the camera, setting up the time in my garage, making sure things are quiet. It'll be much more consistent here. So that is the plan. Is I would like to then post every single day on YouTube. Cut that up so then I have extra content, put that Instagram, put that TikTok. Overall broad goal of just like having a little bit more control over like the ability to help out more people in weightlifting, help build that up a little bit more. But then also end goal of just putting my thoughts out there. Cause like, so I originally had an idea for this video and now I'm completely changing it based off of that. But like, I have been in this industry now for 7 years. So I got my personal trainer certificates freshman year of college, immediately started personal training. So I started taking my first clients when I was like 17, 18, and really blossomed from there. Actual like strength and conditioning, actual Olympic weightlifting, we're looking at more like 3 or 4 years of that 7 or 8. But yeah, so like the thing is, so I was looking at someone's post the other day, and like it was so basic. Like I could tell every single thing that they knew and every single way they coached was straight from a textbook. Like it was just straight NSCA, straight just like basic textbook, where I could just tell like there was no original thought put into it. Like it was just full. A book has told me this. I don't really have the experience to have my own values or my own principles or my own way of programming. I just have directly what this book told me to do and how to do it, and I'm going to go from there. Which the thing is, honestly, like this past year and a half, I was that exact same way. Like I was straight up, I had gone through some courses, I had learned from some very specific people in weightlifting, and I had taken every single thing I was told as gospel. Like this is the way it is done. This is how it has to be done. And I did not defer from that at all. A big part of that was just trying to fit into someone else's model. I was told this is the model, these are the principles, this is what you have to do. And I did that, and it worked pretty well. Like for the vast amount of people, they saw progress. But it really wasn't vibing with like my outlook on training, my outlook with the world. So then like I'm seeing injuries, I'm seeing things, I'm like, oh, why am I doing this? Like I don't really see how like this certain like way of programming makes sense. But I kept just kind of rolling with it because like, all right, well, like this is the model I was told, this is how it's done, this is what I've been told. So really it was like this past year and a half, I actually like started to really fucking experiment, started to actually develop my own coaching principles, put them down on paper, like actually having a set. I have 5 coaching principles, and then constantly going through them, reevaluating them, really questioning like, all right, is this a valid principle? So like looking at this, is this actually one of the foundations of how I do what I do? So like it's really important to have all of that book knowledge, to go through hundreds of thousands of reps of exactly by the book. You go through that perfect periodization structure. You go through that perfect 16-week progression to get someone a back squat. But then you learn some shit and then you experiment some shit, and there are better ways. And that's really just like developing your model. So really that big thought here is like before you can actually develop your own model, like you need the reps. And in my opinion, you have to get those reps in person. Like I have been coaching online for the better half of, I guess really half my career. It's like 3 out of 7, nearly 8 years, like 7.5 years. I've been coaching online, but during every single portion of that, I have also coached in person. So I have never had a time where I was 100% online only. I have always had the opportunity to work with hundreds of people a day in person. So I can immediately get that feedback of, oh, is what I believe actually true? Is what I am doing actually working? And not just seeing, oh, okay, I have, let's say, 5 athletes and I'm doing a 12-week cycle. So like you have a much longer span before you get the feedback if something is working or not. That's just really not ideal. Like, if you can go through 100 people a day, you cycle through group after group, team after team, squad after squad, you can test out a bunch of shit, and you're going to get very quick feedback on if something works or not. I can have, like, the perfect plyometric progression warm-up built out, and then I do it with the group, and I'm like, fuck, all right, like, that's in such a terrible order. Why did I even think of that? Like, that's so stupid. What the fuck was I thinking? But it's not like I go through a 4-week progression with one person and then they finally tell me on week 4, oh yeah, like that was really like annoying to do. And I skipped it because it was just like didn't make sense. You get that immediate feedback. So I honestly think like you need to have been an in-person coach for at least a year or 2 minimum to have like anything worth your salt, any like grain of like trust in that coach. Because, like, there's just so much benefit. You get a trial and error so much fucking shit in person that online, unless you're fucking rolling in the dough and you got 100 clients, you just don't have that same bandwidth that you can go through. So then you can test some shit, you can have principles, but when you are actually working in person and online, like you go a hybrid model, you get so many more opportunities to test your beliefs, to actually test your system. You have a model, but it's never been tested, well, fuck, like, you never have to reevaluate. You never have to double check, like, oh, is this actually the best way? Is this thought process actually correct? So that was basically, like, big idea there is, it took me 6 years to really develop my own model. 6 years of by the book, 6 years of learning every single detail of inside the box, before I really started building outside of the box and thinking outside of the box and testing things outside of the box. You need to master every single inch of inside the box really before you can even think about going outside the box. Like, you look at all these, I hate to say Instagram influencers and fucking fit influencers, because here I am, I have a fucking thing set up in my car to record myself talk. So I say fucking Instagram influencers and look at me doing this bullshit right here. So kind of hypocritical, but also let's just say fitness influencers, and just like sidestep my way out of that category. You look at all this shit and like there's so many exercises out there, variation just for variation's sake, like fucking calling them out, like real-time athletics, I think it is, real game athletics, something like that, where every single thing needs to be as sport specific as possible. Every single thing's on a new different type of Bosu ball each week, dropping, like, it's just fucking ridiculous. You don't need all of that. So like he's going through that entire, that's his coaching model, but like, has that actually like passed the test? Like, have you had the hundreds of reps in people to actually develop that model? And he may have like developed that model, hundreds of thousands of people rolled through it, like, hey, this is the best way. Cool. He was just the first person who dropped into my mind. But you see so many online coaches who have never coached in person. They are just purely online coaches. And they've never developed a model. They just started doing some shit and you're like, yeah, this is gonna get views. Let's do this. And I just think that's straight bullshit. So there's the thing, like, develop a model, but don't even think about a model until you've spent as much time mastering every single thing of what you've been taught. Like, you gotta know the book before you can start to say other shit about the book. Like, you have to know ounce for ounce every part of the argument for something before you can start to argue against it. And that's just like debate right there. Like, if you want to master, if you want to try to convince another, if you want to win a debate, you got to know every single inch of the argument against something if you want to argue for it. Same difference back and forth. So big story, because I'm about to pull up in my neighborhood here and we're at 9 minutes. So this is only the extent of my car ride. I got a fucking maintenance guy waiting at my house right now to fix my washing machine. Big old story there is you got to master the box before you can break out of it. And once you've mastered that box, develop your model, constantly try and challenge it, constantly question, like, is this actually the best route? Is this what I'm doing? Is what I'm seeing working, or am I seeing something else? But then also, like, get as many reps in person as possible. That is going to be the best way to develop your model and really make you question some of the shit that's in the books. And that's like, Harold is like, this is gospel, science says this is best, but then you go fucking Susie Q and you're like, oh shit, like, she just had a kid. She hasn't slept in like fucking 3 weeks. Maybe like this science-based shit maybe this perfect research article like isn't very applicable to this person in this situation. So get your reps in person. I would say you need at least a year or two in person before you can really branch out from there. But honestly, I think like you spend, Jordan, like I really like that hybrid model a lot. I spend 8 hours, 10 hours, 8, 9 hours usually of my day working in person on with the Army, with my soldiers, helping them through their PT, helping them through the competition schedule, their long range training calendar. So I get to see, I have fucking 700 soldiers in my battalion. That's a lot of people that I can work through, get through that, and then boom, I also have my Olympic weightlifting athletes for Power and Grace on the side as well. So I can take all of that shit that I get to practice and test on people, get that immediate feedback in person, and then boom, take that, keep solidifying my model, keep really breaking it down as much as I can and really challenging what I believe to then either further deepen that belief or make that change. And then from there, like, yeah, you're golden. Like, work with people in person, work with people online, continually try to just really hammer down what you believe and go from there. So, pulling up to the house right now, that is what we've got.